プレゼンテッドバイトレジャー。
Yo! This is a collection of my treasure series in one video. This is broken up into 5 sections, starting with treasure on the Genesis, then 5th generation consoles, the Game Boy Advance and Game Gear, 6th generation consoles, and then treasure's last games. I left the original intros in to break each one up. I didn't change anything, even though I know the main characters are Red and Blue in Gunstar Heroes, and I missed the second character in Bangai-O on the N64. With Bangai-O, I talk about it later for the Dreamcast. I cover more about the game there. Please do consider liking, subscribing, and commenting. Kinda the only way the algorithm gets your stuff out there. I have a lot of retro gaming content on my channel. Well, check it out. There are a lot of treasure games to go over, so let's get this started. Treasure Video Games was founded on June 19, 1992. The president Masato Maegawa was a former employee of Konami. In a Game Fan interview, Maegawa said he was frustrated with Konami's over-reliance on sequels. He felt that people wanted original titles. Maegawa presented his idea for Gunstar Heroes to superiors at Konami. He was told no, that won't sell. Maegawa left Konami and took some staff with him, then formed Treasure. According to Masato Maegawa, the name comes from wanting to be a treasure to the industry. They decided to develop for Sega. Sega said they didn't have a proven track record, so they didn't decide to publish Gunstar Heroes. Sega did, however, give them a game to develop, McDonald's Treasureland Adventure. Sega for some reason had a deal with McDonald's. While developing McDonald's Treasureland Adventure, Treasure was given the green light on Gunstar Heroes by Sega. They split into 2 teams to work on both games. Treasureland Adventure was completed first, but Treasure wanted to release Gunstar Heroes first. Gunstar Heroes was first released in Japan on September 10th, 1993. The rest of us all got it in the same month. Gunstar Heroes is a running gun similar to Contra. This game, however, is very original and a timeless classic. You play as one of 2 characters. I think their names are Red and Blue. Honestly, I can't remember where I heard that. I might have made it up when I was a kid. These 2 are the Gunstars. They're trying to stop M. Bison and his evil empire from collecting 4 gems. When my friends and I were kids, we thought M. Bison was in the game. Street Fighter 2 came out about 2 years before this. The 2 characters have 2 different ways of shooting. The first one can run and shoot at the same time. The second one with the headband stands still while firing his weapon. Both can fire in 8 directions. It's just one runs and shoots, while the other aims in one position. Both can be useful in different situations. I personally prefer running and gunning. I'm sure most players do. After choosing a character, there are 4 weapons to choose from. Gunstar Heroes has a really cool feature that lets you mix 2 weapons together. For instance, mixing homing laser makes a homing laser. The 2 can also throw enemies, and in some cases punch. Enemies come in droves. Then there's explosions everywhere. The game keeps itself fresh by constantly changing things up, including a stage with cars riding on train tracks, and a board game. The board game drags on for a while though. Then these bosses are just all over the place. Half the time I'm not even sure what it is that I'm fighting. And I don't mean any of this in a bad way. Gunstar Heroes is one hell of a great looking game too. Hard to believe it was made by a group that primarily worked on SNES games. The game also had a Game Gear port. This game really showed off what the Genesis could do in terms of sound and graphics. It's just a fun time. If you haven't played it in a while, give it a try. It's available everywhere on almost everything. McDonald's Treasureland Adventure was first released in Japan on September 23, 1993, next released in PAL territories on October 1993, and then in North America in December 1993. In this McDonald's game, you play as Ronald McDonald. Now this clown mascot was really big back in the day. When I was a kid, McDonald's had playgrounds with slides and swings and merry-go-rounds. There were statues, I guess, of Ronald McDonald and his friends there. Characters like the Hamburglar, Grimace, and Mayor McCheese. Why am I talking about this? Well, these characters aren't around anymore and they're all in this game. Ronald finds a piece of a treasure map and then heads off. The game automatically sets the difficulty to beginner. To get the most out of this game, you're gonna have to bump that difficulty up. Ronald attacks with his magic. He also has a scarf to grapple onto different spots littered around stages. Now the surprising thing is, this game is actually pretty good. There are little shops around that have health and extra lives and that kind of stuff. Then sometimes the doors have an extra puzzle game bonus stage. This actually isn't bad. Stages all have great design. They're bright and colorful. There are lots of different types of enemies with different types of attacks. Once again, Treasure made one of the best looking games on the Genesis. Bosses require you jumping into their attack to damage them, something like that. This game really has some weird stuff in it. McDonald's Treasure Land Adventures really shows that Treasure took all their games they developed seriously. This is actually a very fun game worth checking out. Dynamite Headdy was first released in Japan on August 5th, 1994. Next released in North America on September 28th, 1994. Then in PAL territories on October 28th, 1994. Headdy attacks with his head. His head launches in 8 different directions. Headdy also collects power-ups to change his head and body. Some examples are an iron head, a vacuum head, turning into an outline, and shrinking. The game has this really cool puppet stage show theme. There's even a backstage fight. Just like Gunstar Heroes, this game is a Genesis classic. Graphically, it looks even better than Treasure's previous 2 titles. Then there's this tutorial town with challenges to complete. This game begins with Headdy and his friends on the run from a robot that's kidnapping them. There's this cat that Headdy battles as a boss continuously throughout the adventure. Once again, this game is filled with crazy bosses. I haven't mentioned the music in these games yet. They all have great tunes. Treasure really knew how to rip that Genesis sound chip. The Genesis was capable of great music, but it could also be really bad. Treasure stayed away from the twangy noises the Genesis makes in some games. Dynamite Headdy is a fast-paced adventure with solid gameplay. It's a difficult game, but it's just like a lot of games from the time. It gets easier the more you play it. This game has done a lot of collections and it's very easy to get your hands on. I definitely recommend it if you've never played it or if it's just been a while. YuYu Hakusho Makyō Tōitsusen was released in Japan on September 30th, 1994. It was also released in Brazil in 1999. YuYu Hakusho is one of my favorite animes of all time. It's up there with Dragon Ball Z for me. The story follows middle school delinquent Yusuke Urameshi in his battle against the demon world. The manga was created by Yoshiro Togashi. He also created Hunter x Hunter and is married to Naoko Takauchi, the creator of Sailor Moon. I first played this back when I started messing with emulators back in high school. 16-bit anime fighting games don't have the best reputation. However, this is Treasure we're talking about. Remember, they made a Ronald McDonald game where the worst thing about it is that it stars Ronald McDonald. The game is set close to the end of the series. The game features all the major characters up to Sensui. Most of the Dark Tournament fighters are missing besides Chu and Jin. When I played this game for this video, I had no real memory of it. I really wasn't expecting much, but man was I pleasantly surprised. Honestly, my son and I had a lot of fun with this one. We also had a lot of fun with Gunstar Heroes. It's just that only 2 of these games are 2 players. My son's also seen the anime, so there was a lot of in-character trash talk. This fighting game is set on 2 planes. The foreground and background can quickly be jumped to, similar to games like Fatal Fury and the later Treasure beat-em-up Guardian Heroes. This game has a few different modes of play. 1 vs 1 arcade mode, 1 vs 1 exhibition, 2 vs 2 battles, and 4-man battle royals. Well, 4-person battle royals since the game only has 1 female, a DH Genkai. There's also a practice mode in there, and you can also do 3-man battle royals if you want to. The really cool thing about this game is the multi-person battles. The action can get crazy with fighters flying across the arena knocking into other characters. All of the fighters in this game share the same button combinations to pull off special moves. Some only work with a few characters, like rapidly pushing one of the attack buttons with Yusuke unleashes a flurry of punches, while Kuwabara doesn't have a rapid pushing move. Up there with each character's life meter is their spirit energy bar. This depletes with each special attack. To fill it back up, they have to power up. All of the characters besides Yusuke and his master Genkai have their own unique moves. Genkai and Yusuke play very differently though. The game's like a proto Smash Brothers. It's like someone at HAL Laboratories played this and said, hey, we need to build on this idea. Just like most fighting games, pushing a different button or a team battle will change the character's color palette. These include a blue and red Toguro, and a Jin palette swap that makes him look like Super Saiyan Goku. My son and I fought that Jin in a battle royal and he destroyed us. This game is just fun, and you don't need to be a fan of YuYu Hakusho to enjoy it. Treasure made arguably one of the best fighters on the Genesis here. Unfortunately, just like McDonald's Treasureland Adventure, this game is a licensed property, and it's not on any recent collections or available for digital purchase. You'll have to go with other means to play this. Alien Soldier was first released in Japan on February 24th, 1995, and in June of the same year in PAL territories. We got this one here in North America in 1995 on the Sega Channel. That's how I played it as a kid. As I got older, I was surprised to hear that Alien Soldier didn't get a North American release, as well as games like Golden Axe 3 and Mega Man The Wily Wars. Those were also a couple Sega Channel exclusives. In Alien Soldier, you play as Epsilon Eagle, a superpowered soldier of some sort, and he's going up against 11 Tiger. According to the game's intro, apparently 11 Tiger needs to assassinate Epsilon Eagle to liberate the space-time continuum? Or something like that. I'll tell you one thing though, if you read this intro, you'll laugh. Check out this extreme title screen. Visual shock, speed shock, sound shock. Now is the time to the 68,000 Heart on Fire. Alien Soldier. For Mega Drivers Custom. This game is a boss run mode with some short running gun sections. It's also really hard. There are two difficulty settings, super easy and super hard. There's no super normal. You're either a dweeb or a hardcore gamer, dig it? I played on super easy and this game was still super hard. Just like Gunstar Heroes, you choose your weapon. In Alien Soldier, you can choose 4. Each has limited ammo though. Epsilon Eagle has some abilities too. He can counterattack, float with his jetpack, and dash across the screen. That dash is the most useful and necessary of his abilities. While dashing, Epsilon is invulnerable. These bosses are huge, so they'll be coming towards you with no escape but to dash past them. The game definitely has some crazy and strange enemies and bosses. This game gets easier the more you play. It takes a little time to get the patterns down and get used to the controls. When you have full health, Epsilon and his life bar flash. He gets one super dash that I was able to one-shot the first boss with. Alien Soldier has fast and furious gameplay with great controls, graphics, and music. It continues Treasure's trend of new original IPs. It's also in a lot of Sega collections. Definitely give it a shot if you've never played it. Light Crusader was first released in Japan on May 26, 1995, next released in South Korea on July 22, 1995, then in PAL territories in August 1995, also released in North America on October 25, 1995, and in Australia in 1995. Light Crusader is an isometric action RPG. You play as the dorky Sir David, a great and powerful dorky swordsman. The king needs David's help. The townspeople are disappearing. It's up to David to rescue the town and find out why the townspeople are vanishing. This game has its fans. I'm not one of them though. The game has an isometric view, and David's reach on his sword feels really short. It's not a bad game. I don't hate it. It's just one of those games I've tried multiple times and I can never really get into it. This game lets you push objects and people. There are puzzles in the game that use this mechanic. One puzzle I solved was moving the royal court. There are plenty of items to buy and equip. Treasures can be found while dungeon crawling. There are many fantasy-themed monsters and bosses lurking around. There's platforming in this game too. It's a bit of a pain because of the game's angle. I mean, I can see the appeal. It's just not for me. Still, check it out. As I said earlier, this game does have its fans. Here we are, back with Treasure. This time I'll be going over their 7 games on 5th generation consoles. 3 Sega Saturn games, 3 Nintendo 64 games, and 1 PlayStation game. The last Treasure video was my biggest influx of subscribers, and I really just want to say thank you to everybody that clicked that subscribe button. From the first to the latest, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. Another thing about the last video is a lot of people asked about Guardian Heroes. Well, good news, this is where we're starting. If you're new, please do consider liking and subscribing. I don't like making these intros too long, so let's go! Guardian Heroes was first released in Japan on January 26, 1996, next released in North America on April 24, 1996, then in PAL territories on June 20, 1996. According to designer Tetsuhiko Hanakakuchi, the inspiration for Guardian Heroes were Mad Stalker Fullmetal 4th and the Alien vs. Predator arcade game from Capcom. This game is an RPG beat-em-up. The game begins with the 4 leads Han, Nicole, Genjiro, and Randy marveling over the sword of the Valiant Warrior. They found it before the start of the game. A knight named Serena busts in and informs them that the Royal Knights are on their way to retrieve the sword. This game has branching storylines with multiple endings. I played through it twice solo and once with my son. All 3 were very different adventures with a wide variety of characters and bosses. The story changes to the point that the threat and final boss were different. The multiple choices throughout the game really give it a lot of replayability. The 4 main characters are very unique from each other. Han is a powerhouse. Nicole is a clumsy mage with high luck and weird spells. Randy is actually really good with combos. He's a mage but different from Nicole. Genjiro is a quick ninja with great power attacks. Guardian Heroes isn't a belt scroller beat 'em up like Streets of Rage. Instead, the action takes place on 3 planes like Fatal Fury or YuYu Hakusho if you watch my Treasure on the Genesis video. There's a lot of scaling going on here. This game throws tons of enemies at you, so it's actually still quite impressive. This game is really different from other beat-em-ups, except maybe Advanced Guardian Heroes. I've never played it though. However, I've already come this far with Treasure, so I might as well keep going. Anyway, characters level up in battle. Nothing changes until you finish dialogue-heavy stages. I'd say every stage, but this game isn't always clear when a stage ends. I'd suddenly see stage 24. I couldn't remember how many stages had actually shown up on screen. It's not a problem or anything, it's just something I noticed. Points for every level are distributed at attributes. Sometimes you'll level up 10 times, other times you'll level up twice. You also have the Undead Knight who joins you through most of the adventure. He's controlled by the CPU. These dialogue cutscenes can be quite long. They can't be skipped either. Watching the Undead Knight rise was cool the first 2 times, but by the time I was on my 3rd playthrough, I really wanted to skip everything and get back to fighting goblins. This game definitely gets harder as it goes on. There were points where there were so many enemies on screen I didn't know where I was, so yeah, I was just pushing buttons when that happened. But still, I played through it 3 times. This game's awesome. The sprite work looks great. 2D games always age the best. The backgrounds really have a lot of detail, and there's a lot you can miss if you only play it once. That includes the music. There are some great tunes exclusive to certain areas. There's one, Shuffle in the Dark, that had a saxophone in it that I really liked. I'm so glad I played this game again. Guardian Heroes is one hell of a beat 'em up. And hey, if you've got an Xbox, it's only $5. Mischief Makers was first released in Japan as Yuki Troublemakers on June 27, 1997. Next released in North America on October 1st, 1997, and then released in PAL territories on December 12, 1997, and also released in Australia in 1998. This was a game I discovered at Blockbuster. There was quite a selection of low-print Atlas games in the such at Blockbuster and Hollywood Video. Anyway, seeing Marina on the front cover made me pick it. Mischief Makers is an action platformer. It centers around grabbing. Marina and Professor Theo end up on planet Clancer. The professor is kidnapped. It's up to Marina to rescue her creator. Clancer is a very weird place. There are faces on a lot of the stuff on this planet. The balls that Marina grabs onto have faces. I'm not sure if they're the people of Clancer stuck like that or not. Marina attacks by grabbing enemies and throwing them. There are also a few weapons she can use. There's also a clamp pot that works like an alchemy pot. Items and some projectiles can be combined to create new items. She also has jet boosters to give her a short boost in any direction. Mischief Makers starts off really easy. Even one of the Miss Hints acknowledges this by saying, "I bet you think this game's pretty easy." I can definitely say it's not the hardest game, but by the second map in the volcano it picks up in difficulty. Like games like Mario and Donkey Kong Country, Mischief Makers has maps for the different areas. They aren't as interesting to look at as the games just mentioned, they're functional though. Mischief Makers has some really cool stage design. The game keeps itself interesting by changing things up from stage to stage. There wasn't a single time I ever got too comfortable. Next stage could be a free fall or a volcano erupting. The music in this game is really good. Treasure games always seem to have good music, kinda like Castlevania I guess. This game's soundtrack has a sound that's really suited to the Strange Planet Clancer. There aren't too many voices in the game, but there's always the classic.
Shake, 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 shake.
Then there's also...
Help me, Marina!
That's not the only time he says that either. This game is really just a fun time, and like Guardian Heroes, this is a game that shouldn't be missed. Silhouette Mirage was first released in Japan on September 11, 1997 for the Sega Saturn. Next for the Sony PlayStation in Japan on July 23, 1997, then in North America on January 5, 2000. For this video I played the Saturn version with a translation patch. It was translated by Wired Crackpot, C-Sketch, and Rasputin 3000. Working Designs is the original North American translation. They're very well known for changing things in this game for the PS1 port, like paying to save, and they add a lot of their own jokes, which kinda removes the original game's humor. Gotta say thank you to those that translated this. Okay, so this was my first time playing this game. When I was doing tests for this, I wasn't sure if I was gonna like it, but man was I wrong. The game starts off with a tutorial. Shina has a lot of moves, so it's helpful. She also has quite the arsenal of weapons. Shina is awakened by the computer system Gehenna. Shina needs to repair this system known as Ito. Ito caused a worldwide catastrophe that mutated the planet's inhabitants into silhouettes and mirages. Basically blonde doll-looking girls and little pumpkin head dudes. Shina has both the powers of silhouettes and mirages. She and a few other characters are proteans. If you've ever played Ikaruga, it's kinda like that. Depending on which direction Shina is facing is which power she'll use. It costs a lot of spirit energy, but you can invert the colors on Shina. When it comes to the action in this game, it's like Treasure's greatest hits in one game. Just like Mischief Makers, she can grab and throw enemies. She also has a slide attack, and she can fly for a short amount of time by flapping with jump. This game has some cool bosses. Treasure really takes advantage of the power of the new console while making something that feels like Gunstar Heroes and Alien Soldier but looks much better, like this giant catfish boss. Silhouette Mirage is a great looking game and it has some awesome music too. If you want to play something really different, this is it. Fun action, easy to learn, this game really should have gotten more attention. I just know in 2000 I was playing a lot of Dreamcast. I'd looked at this game in stores but I passed on it. This game's short, but it's a great game. Radiant Silvergun was released in Japan on May 28, 1998 in arcades. Next for the Sega Saturn in Japan was July 23, 1998. The game's director, Hiroshi Iuchi, said he had the idea for Radiant Silvergun long before it was released. Up until this point, all their games were action platformers and one fighting game. Radiant Silvergun was released in arcades first. Treasure really wanted to work on an arcade shoot 'em up for a while. By 1998, the shoot 'em up genre was being overshadowed by the arcade fighting games. Treasure pushed forward and Radiant Silvergun became the 5th biggest arcade game in Japan at the time. Most shoot-'ems have you destroying enemies and collecting power-ups for your weapons. Yuichi said he would sometimes die while collecting these. Radiant Silvergun instead gives you all the game's weapons from the start mapped to a different button. Each weapon is useful in different situations. You have forward firing machine guns, rear firing machine guns, a homing weapon, a laser, lock-on attacks, and a sword. Cool thing about the sword is when you absorb enough pink projectiles, it performs a screen-killing bomb-like attack. Radiant Silvergun is really much different from other shoot-'em-ups. Another thing about this game is it's really hard.
That's what she said.
The music was done by one of my favorite video game composers of all time, Hitoshi Sakamoto. His most notable works are Tactics Ogre, Final Fantasy Tactics, all 3 of them, and Final Fantasy XII. He's done so many more soundtracks too, like Breath of Fire Dragon Quarter, and another game with Dragon in it, Dragon's Crown. Just like Treasure, Sakamoto started on the Genesis. One of my favorites of his is the soundtrack for Gauntlet 4. Along with Masahiro Wada and Yuzo Koshiro, there weren't too many others that could rip that Genesis sound chip as good as they could. One of my favorite things about CD-based games from this time period was how much freedom a lot of these composers were allowed. No longer were they bound by the limitations of 16-bit sound chips. Radiant Silvergun is an amazing shoot-'em-up. Even its spiritual successor, Ikaruga, is very unique compared to Radiant Silvergun. This game is truly one of a kind. Just like Guardian Heroes, this one is still available for purchase on Xbox, and it's in English. Rakugaki Showtime was first released in Japan on July 29, 1999. This game became rare because of a legal dispute between Treasure and Enix over who owned the Rakugaki characters. This is Treasure's second fighting game. I definitely like YuYu Hakusho for Rakugaki Showtime. The game revolves around balls and items scattered around the arena. Throwing balls makes the faces on them change from happy to angry, then turning into a super ball. Well, I mean, you have to hit your opponents with the ball first. The super balls unleash super attacks and transformations. It's kind of like Power Stone, but not as fun. The game's okay, but let's get back to it. Also around the arena are items like boulders, bombs, and missiles. These can be used to do damage and knock opponents out of super attacks. Even when my son and I played multiplayer on this one, it wasn't that much fun. It's kind of like dodgeball. You can catch objects headed towards you, and there are also strike attacks characters can perform. I really do like the art style. There are a lot of different animations for all the characters. The intro is nuts though. I was watching this saying, what the hell is going on? After we watched the intro, my son asked me, what are you going to say about this game? My response was, I really don't know. I'd say it's worth a try if you're okay with the dreaded E word. If you want a physical copy, it's a pricey one. I don't feel like it's worth the price, but you might like the game. I just prefer to be honest with you all instead of pretending to like everything. Oh, and Marina from Mischief Makers is in this. Bangai-O was released in Japan on September 3, 1999 for the Nintendo 64. It was also released on the Dreamcast in Japan on December 9, 1999, then in PAL territories on October 20, 2000, and in North America on March 21, 2001. The Dreamcast kicks off the 6th generation, so I'll be playing the Japanese N64 version. The Dreamcast version does add a lot, so I'll cover it in the future. There isn't much to the story of this game, something about Ricky and his sister, Mommy fighting Guy and his Cosmo gang. There's something about a fruit smuggling operation too. I don't understand why I'm blowing up homes and buildings though. Bangai-O, you pilot a mech. It's basically a twin-stick shooter, but it's closer to Smash TV on the Super Nintendo. The D-pad controls movement and the C buttons fire missiles. The mech's missiles are heat-seeking. With all the houses and buildings around, missiles will head right for them. The score goes up from blowing them up, and there's fruit inside too. The mech also has an attack that fires missiles in all directions as well. The game starts off fairly easy, but the difficulty ramps up quick. Stages will have you maneuvering through tight spaces with lasers blocking the way. Flying out into the middle of everything can get you blown up fast. This game is super addictive. There are missiles and bullets flying all over the place. Even after failing a mission, I just wanted to jump back in and try to do better. It was all worth it for that weird stage clear screen. I gotta say, this is one hell of a fun game. There isn't a whole lot to it, but stage design is great. Graphics are very simple, but it doesn't matter. Definitely check out Bangai-O. This was my first time playing the game and I love it. The N64 version had a very limited print run, so this is another rare one.
Soon, it will all begin.
Sin and Punishment was released in Japan on November 21st, 2000 for the Nintendo 64. Next released in China on September 25th, 2004 for the IQ Player. I don't even know what that is. Okay, so the IQ Player was a Nintendo 64 console that was in the controller. Nintendo was involved with its development. Treasure didn't develop this game alone. They co-developed Sin and Punishment with Nintendo R&D 1. I remember when this game dropped in Japan, it was all over video game magazines. Since it came out at the tail end of 2000, it was always doubtful it will get localized. It would eventually get a North American release in 2006 for the Wii, which is gone now. Sin and Punishment is a rail shooter, but it's not some cheap Star Fox ripoff. Saki and Iran have to run and jump to avoid damage. If you do what I did until this time, the controls will be a pain. However, in this game, the movement is done with the D-pad and the C buttons. I didn't know that for many years. I'd always use the C buttons, if only I would have checked the D-pad. The analog is used to aim. In another smart move, jumping is mapped to L and R, while shooting is mapped to Z. In Sin and Punishment, the world suffered a global famine. Bioengineered creatures were created to serve as a food source. The critters mutated and started attacking people. After this, they were known as ruffians. After the emergence of ruffians, an international group called the Armed Volunteers made their way to Japan to deal with the ruffians. However, they started to oppress the Japanese people. Another group led by a woman named Aichi rose to destroy the ruffians and the Armed Volunteers. Our protagonists are part of this group. This game's action comes at you fast. Dodge rolls and jumping are used constantly, and man does this game look good on Nintendo 64. The set pieces are awesome. You'll be making your way to many varied locations on this adventure. Enemy animation is outstanding. While ruffians and armed volunteer forces look awesome, there's something really creepy about the main characters.
Michiko's group. They've all been killed.
Achi? Did you see them? Cold-blooded killers. Even if we steal the damn transport, it won't mean anything if there's no one to ride in it.
Relax, Iron. Wake Saki.
Sin and Punishment is a fast-paced, action-packed shooter worth any retro gamer's time. This game is more proof of why Treasure were the kings of action games for so long. Yo! Here we are, Treasure on the Game Gear and Game Boy Advance. I chose to go with the portable titles. Well, I had to talk about the Game Gear at some point. If this is your first Treasure episode you're seeing, I did Treasure on the Genesis and 5th generation consoles already. Out of these games, I've only played one before this episode. Please do consider liking and subscribing. I am trying to build this channel. Oh yeah, check me out on Twitter or X, whatever it is, at evo_genesis neo. Now, let's go! Dynamite Headdy was first released in Japan on the Game Gear on August 5th, 1994. Next released in North America in September 1994, then in PAL territories in November 1994. Dynamite Headdy on the Game Gear goes more of the Sonic and Castle of Illusion Sega handheld route. This version takes advantage of the handheld's strengths, or, weaknesses compared to the Genesis, making it a very different game. Sure, the two games share a lot of bosses and stage backgrounds, but stage layout is completely different. I gotta say, this is a pretty good platformer. Dynamite Headdy starts with an intro, something that its Genesis counterpart lacks. Headdy's head power-ups are mostly here. I only noticed the mini-head missing. I'm guessing the shrinking mechanic was too much for the Game Gear. If only Sega had discovered blast processing sooner, or put it in the Game Gear. This is basically a handheld master system. Dynamite Headdy attacks with his head. He can get some power-ups like a metal head, a vacuum head, a pick head that shoots stars, a speed head, and a sleepy head. The sleepy one restores health. A few of the boss fights are completely different, obviously because of the limitations of the Game Gear. Treasure did throw in some fun replacements. This is a fun little game. Check it out if you're a fan of the original.
Oh my god!
This is delicious!
Gunstar Heroes was released on the Game Gear in Japan on March 24th, 1995. Surprisingly, Gunstar Heroes on the Game Gear is close to its Genesis big brother. The game features both Gunstar Blue and Red. Blue is fixed shot. He can fire only while standing still, but can fire in 8 directions. Red can run and gun, but can fire in 3 directions while standing still. Well, 4 if you count down. Red's the way to go. All 4 weapons and weapon combinations are present. Flame, laser, machine gun, and homing. These can all be combined to create new weapons, like a homing machine gun. You can also collect 2 of the same to power them up, like double homing. One big difference besides the 8-bit downgrade is that there's a stage missing. It's the board game level. A memorable stage, but not one I enjoy playing. Also, the train stage is much different. Instead of vehicles that can swap tracks, the Gunstars get a helicopter backpack. Since that stage is missing, one of the treasure gems the Empire is after is just sitting up there at the stage select. The boss fight against Green in his forms was a lot of fun. That was definitely the highlight of my time with the game. Okay, so for a Game Gear game, Gunstar Heroes is great. However, there isn't much reason to play this downgraded version of Gunstar Heroes today, unless you're some sort of die-hard Game Gear player. And there's nothing wrong with that, I just can't see recommending this to anyone else. The original Gunstar Heroes is available all over the place, so play that instead, or maybe play the last game in this video. Tiny Toon Adventures Buster's Bad Dream was first released in PAL territories on July 5, 2002. This game's North American release was cancelled, however some copies got out. Tiny Toon Adventures Scary Dreams is the one I'm playing. This is also the last Tiny Toon Adventures video game. In this game you play as Buster, and you can choose other characters from the show as support. Buster attacks with boxing gloves. He's got a combo and an uppercut. Buster can also launch enemies and perform an air combo. Enemies also knock into each other, a mechanic that'll be used in another game in this video. The thing about this game is it's really hard. I gave it some time and I can't beat the second stage. I've seen some people smash through this game, and I'm sure if they saw this they'd say I suck at the game. I do, and I don't really find the game interesting enough to get good at. I mean, it's a solid game, it's just not for me. But you know, if you really want to try it, try it. Hajime no Ippo The Fighting was released on December 12, 2002. I'm playing a fan translation by Mark Liuji released on September 20, 2008. Hajime no Ippo The Fighting is a very long-running manga series. It's been going since 1989 and has over 1,400 chapters at the time of recording. Yeah, it's still going. The series was written by George Morikawa. It also has a couple anime series and movies. I will admit I'm a fan, not a huge fan of Hajime no Ippo, so I was very intrigued by a treasure boxing game. The series follows Ippo's boxing career. Starts with him as an amateur boxer in high school to an adult professional boxer. Ippo battles a number of competitors over the course of the series. These make up the roster of playable fighters, even though you only play as a pair of boxing gloves. The game's got a few modes of play. There's a story mode, tournaments, sparring, and versus via link cable. The story and tournament is where I spend most of my time, and I'm guessing it's where you'll spend most of yours too. There's also a customize on the menu. This one allows you to use the points you earn from fights to upgrade character stats. The story mode doesn't have any story, you just fight a select group of fighters that Ippo battles in the series. A few of his early opponents aren't present. Fights get intense fast. Most of these fighters can punch you before you have a chance to throw one yourself. The combatants all have different combinations and punches and special moves. Dodging and blocking will be used a lot in fights. Blocking can eventually break your character's guard, and you just kind of get beat on after that. There's a lot of waiting and throwing counter punches. Special moves use spirit, and when I use them they seemed unblockable. After rounds you can use points for healing, spirit, and increasing the down meter. Really though, this is a very fun and addictive boxing game. First 2 games on the GBA feature boxing gloves as a main attack. Anyway, I'm definitely going to be sinking more time into this one. Even if you aren't a boxing fan, Hajime no Ippo The Fighting is a game to check out. Astro Boy Omega Factor was first released in Japan on December 18, 2003, next released in North America on August 17, 2004, then in PAL territories on February 18, 2005. Astro Boy was a manga written by Osamu Tezuka. The series ran from 1952 to 1968. It was insanely popular and has had multiple animes and movies over the years. Astro Boy Omega Factor was a joint development between Hitmaker and Treasure. The game features 47 characters from Osamu Tezuka's multiple manga works. Astro Boy is a robot built by Dr. Tenma. Tenma's son Tobio passed away in a tragic accident. The doctor creates a robot in his son's likeness with the robotic equivalent of a soul, the Omega Factor. Dr. Tenma leaves Astro Boy to his friend Dr. O'Shea, then heads off to make more robots. Okay, I'm really oversimplifying it here. In the original Astro Boy, Dr. Tenma sold Astro Boy to a circus because he wouldn't grow.
You be a good son to me and grow up to be a normal human child like all the other children around here your same age.
Oh my god.
Astro Boy is considered to be the first anime, and it's much darker than you'd expect it to be. Astro Boy is basically a superhero, battling giant robots and saving the planet from evil. The game begins with Astro Boy waking for the first time. He's quickly called into action when Dr. O'Shea's lab assistant is kidnapped. Astro Boy Omega Factor is a beat-em-up platformer, as well as having some horizontal shoot-em-up stages. Astro Boy has a laser that fires from his finger, as well as some melee attacks and combos. He also has 3 super moves: a super laser, a flying melee, and a machine gun that comes out of, well, his butt. Just like Buster's Bad Dreams, enemies can be knocked into each other. They also scale just like that game too. There's something so satisfying about the combat in this game. Launching enemies into each other, then watching them bounce all over the place doesn't get old. Even on the normal difficulty, Astro Boy Omega Factor is challenging. Once you get the hang of a stage or a boss fight, it really makes you wonder what was so hard about it in the first place. The game also has quite a variety of stages. As you progress through the story and explore stages, Astro will meet characters. Each character he meets gives 1 upgrade point. Before you meet all the characters in the game, Astro Boy will be maxed out. It's still fun to look for them though. The story follows the 2003 anime, and what's here is very good. Good stories are what I feel is missing from most of the Treasure games I've covered so far. Astro Boy's story is just another reason that this game is so great. Astro Boy Omega Factor is awesome. Right when you think it's over, there's more to go. The game is a gem on the GBA, and I 100% recommend it. Advanced Guardian Heroes was first released in North America on September 14, 2004, next released in Japan on September 22, 2004, then released in Australia on February 17, 2005, and in PAL territories on February 18, 2005. This is the first sequel from a company that didn't really want to make sequels. Well, before this they co-developed Gradius V with G-Rev, but that isn't a sequel to a Treasure game. Sega owns Guardian Heroes, so Treasure had to license it from Sega for the sequel. Sega had no interest in developing one. Advanced Guardian Heroes picks up well after the events of the first game. The ending that took the heroes to a battle in heaven is the canon ending. I think that was the plan from the multiple times I beat Guardian Heroes. This ending was the longest and had the most animation. The characters from the first game are defeated, then the villains bring them back and have complete control over them. I'm not sure how many years passed, but the original characters are known as the Ancient Heroes. The game stars Resistance Fighters, maybe a Resistance Fighter? You can select the characters, just they all look the same with a different palette swap. One is stronger at magic, another is more attack, and one is faster. Advance switches out Guardian Heroes 3 planes for a more traditional belt scroller stage setup. The 3 choices to select all have the same moves and combo. The standing combo is performed by not moving the D-pad and repeatedly pressing attack. Different directions and attack perform power attacks that can be mixed into the combo. Air dashes and air attacks can be performed as well. There's also a hyper mode that's fueled by the rage meter. Yeah, this got me out of some tough situations. It allows you to attack with lightning speed. Even power moves fly out quickly and do the same amount of damage. When you die, some dark demonic dude asks you if you want to sell your soul for an invincible body. This lasts for 6 minutes, then dude comes back to collect and it's game over. I can't see much use for this unless you're fighting the final boss. Well, it does give you some time to practice. Other than that, I didn't receive any choices for which direction I wanted to take the story. From what I played, this one is more linear. It's disappointing since the first game had so many paths with different stages, characters, and bosses. Also the multiple endings. Visually, the game looks great. Even the sprites for the characters from Guardian Heroes are on par with the Saturn. Advanced Guardian Heroes is a fun game. It held my attention for a couple hours. It's not an easy game, that's for sure, but it isn't bad. Astro Boy is no doubt the better beat 'em up. However, Treasure's first sequel is worth checking out. Now into the final game, which is also a sequel. Gunstar Superheroes was first released in Japan on October 6, 2005. Next released in North America on October 25, 2005, then in PAL territories on November 4, 2005. Gunstar Superheroes is a sequel to Treasure's first game, Gunstar Heroes. I gotta say, this is one hell of a sequel. The game starts off showing the events of the first game. After the Gunstar Heroes defeat Gold and Silver, the explosion creates 4 new moons. After some time passes, a 5th moon appears. The Empire returns and plans to resurrect Gold and Silver, or Destructor as this game puts it. Earth's Defense Force, I-3E? I don't know, it's spelled 3YE, creates a special unit codenamed Gunstar Superheroes. The 2 main characters are also named Red and Blue. This time around they aren't bound by a shooting type, meaning that Blue is actually worth picking. The 2 have very different story scenes and they change based on the difficulty. This isn't just a sequel, it's pretty much a remake. Stages and bosses are very similar to the Genesis game. That really isn't a problem because this game is awesome. So nostalgic seeing these familiar places with remixed music. Even little goobers are running around. It's still fun to blow up their little village. The 4 weapon types are all present, but they work differently. Each character has 3 weapons. Red has exclusive access to the machine gun, and Blue has the laser. Each can use homing and flame. Throws have been removed and replaced with melee attacks. I was able to use this to wreck Pink's giant mech. There's a new rising uppercut that was very useful against this yellow space marine boss. For the Emperor! All Out returns, it doesn't feel rehashed. There's also new sections. One on Yellow Ship while avoiding missiles really reminded me of Contra Hardcore. There's also a horizontal shoot 'em up section. The game plays so well and it's just so much fun. The goal of collecting the 4 treasure gems is still the same. Green also betrays the Gunstars and has his multiple forms. Honestly, I absolutely love this game. It's the perfect sequel to one of the greatest action games ever made. This is a must play for the GBA. For hardcore Sega fans, there's a flicky stage in there too. Yo, this time we'll be going over Treasure on 6th generation consoles. This is the 4th episode in this Treasure series. Previously I covered Treasure on the Genesis, 5th generation consoles, and the Game Boy Advance and Game Gear. Now I disappeared for a little bit. I had another video I was working on, but I wasn't happy with it. The good thing is it gave me ideas for future projects. Also, life just keeps me busy. Well now, before we get on to Treasure, please do consider subscribing. I have other compilation videos with in-depth reviews and story recaps. I also want to say thanks to my son for being my player 2 in a lot of these games. He's 22 and has his own stuff going on. He always watches and gives his input. He was a huge help on the Resident Evil spin-offs, and well, pretty much every video. Now let's kick things off with Bangai-O on the Dreamcast. Let's go! Bangai-O was first released in Japan for the Dreamcast on December 9, 1999. Next released in PAL territories on October 20, 2000, then in North America on March 21, 2001. This version of Bangai-O has new graphics and music. It was also released in English. The N64 original never got out of Japan. The original also had a very limited print run, making it very difficult to get a physical copy. Well, the Dreamcast version got a lot more exposure, and this is the first of 3 Bangai-O games. Now this game isn't much different than the one I covered before. This time though the game is in English, so I was able to read the tips. And the arranged soundtrack is pretty good. Bangai-O stars a brother-sister duo Ricky and Mammy. Ricky is a member of the People's Police on Danstar. He gets beat up by goons from the SF Cosmo gang. When Ricky returns home, he finds that the SF Cosmo gang beat up his dad too. Ricky reveals the People's Police's secret weapon, Bangai-O. His sister Mammy joins him, and they head off to take down the SF Cosmo gang and their illegal fruit smuggling operation. Bangai-O plays like a twin-stick shooter. For some odd reason the D-pad and analog are the default setting. This control scheme is awful. Luckily it can be set to the D-pad and face buttons. The duo switch between piloting Bangai-O. Ricky fires heat-seeking missiles, and Mammy gets a machine gun. Her projectiles bounce off the walls. Both are useful for different situations. They also have a super attack that fires in all directions. I made a mistake on the Treasure on 5th generation consoles video. I didn't know about Mammy. I thought I pushed all the buttons on the controller, and I couldn't read the tips. Well, I just wanted to say something about that. Stages are filled with buildings to blow up with fruit inside. These can be collected for points. There are plenty of enemies and enemy spawners as well. Bosses tend to come back in later stages with additional attacks. They start off extremely easy. Bangai-O is a very fun and addictive shooter. Once again, hours flew by and I only stopped because I had to start writing this video. I gotta say this is a great choice for a game with simple pick up and play controls. The difficulty definitely goes up and it pays to be a little cautious. The new graphics and music make this worth checking out if you've already played the N64 version. I highly recommend both.
31 years after the Zakarite Civil War, mankind is about to confront a new threat. A threat from the darkest corner of the universe.
Silpheed the Lost Planet was first released in Japan on September 21st, 2000, next released in North America on April 10, 2001, then released in PAL territories on May 11, 2001. This game is a sequel to Silpheed, which released in 1986. This game has a lot of story, but none of it is very interesting. Considering this is a vertical shooter, there really is a lot of setup. So yeah, aliens invade, only Silpheed ships can save the day. A lot of these were destroyed since leadership took too long to decide if the aliens were a threat.
03, report target's condition, okay? We are in the military after all. Okay. Huh? Live readings?
Now it's up to a lone pilot to take down the alien threat and save humanity. Silpheed plays okay enough. There are no power-ups to collect or anything. Also, if there is some type of screen-clearing bomb, I don't know how to use it. The game's main mechanic seems to be the multiple weapons you can unlock and equip to your ship. The ship has 2 weapon slots for the left and right side. The game starts you off with 2. They unlock really slowly, and the game is kind of boring. It's not really bad or anything, it's just an average shooter. The game's presentation is a high spot. The art direction really shines here. Really, what's going on in the background is the best part of Silpheed. The music isn't bad either. Silpheed the Lost Planet really got old quick, and I didn't really have any desire to keep playing. If you want to play a treasure shooter, go with Radiant Silvergun or Ikaruga, which is coming up later in this video. Keep in mind, a lot of these are joint productions. Treasure might not have had too much control over Silpheed. If they did, then oof, this one's a miss. Stretch Panic Freakout was first released in PAL territories on July 27, 2001, next released in North America on August 28, 2001, then released in Japan on December 6, 2001. Stretch Panic Freakout stars Linda, a little girl living with her mean sisters. Linda receives a strange present that unleashes demons that possess the sisters in Linda's scarf. Oh yeah, and it transports her to another world too. This is Treasure's first 3D platformer. In true Treasure form, it's definitely unique. Linda moves around with the analog. That's the only direct control you have with her. The right analog controls her scarf. The scarf can grab onto objects, enemies, and the stage. Pretty much whatever you can see on screen that your scarf can reach can be grabbed. There are 2 big issues I had with the game. The first one is the lack of a jump button. The only way for her to get to higher places is to grab onto it and wait to be flung there. The other one is, since the right analog moves the scarf, there's no way to control the camera. I didn't get too far into this game. Mainly I just didn't care for it. I really wanted to like this game. Bright and colorful, from the one enemy I did encounter it seemed funny, and the music is pretty good too. When I dropped into the first stage, I was not expecting one with giant double Z's to be wandering it. To defeat them, you have to grab them from behind and smack them into their ginormous melons. They can also fly with them.
Oh my god!
Just like Crusader, this game has some people that are really into it. While it wasn't my cup of tea, you might like this one. Ikaruga was first released in Japanese arcades on December 20th, 2001, then on the Dreamcast in Japan on September 5th, 2002. It then came out on the GameCube, first in Japan on January 16, 2003, next in North America on April 15, 2003, then in PAL territories on May 9, 2003. Work on Ikaruga began while Treasure was developing Sin and Punishment for Nintendo. Director Hiroshi Yuichi, with the help of programmer Atsutomo Nakagawa, put together a prototype. Hiroshi Yuichi worked on the game at home with his spare time. Ikaruga is the spiritual successor to the outstanding Radiant Silvergun. This was supposed to be a trilogy of shooters, with Radiant Silvergun's theme being World and Ikaruga's theme being Will. Just like its predecessor, Ikaruga is a vertical shooter. The ship can change between white and black polarities, or red and blue. All projectiles are either white or black. By changing the polarities of your ship, it can absorb projectiles of the same color. Bullets fly at you from everywhere. A lot of the time they fire off in almost hypnotizing patterns. Maneuvering through all this is tough. In addition to the waves of bullets, you'll be fighting many ships and a lot of mini-bosses. On the left of the screen you have a meter that fills as you absorb bullets, letting you shoot multiple large seeking projectiles. Stage design is absolutely awesome. There are so many obstacles, like the walls coming in and crates moving and blocking the way. Stages all look great too. The soundtrack, also by Hiroshi Yuchi, is pretty good, and it's actually pretty close to the style of Hisoshi Sakamoto. The GameCube version has some extra modes, like Practice, Conquest, and Challenges. None of these really do anything to change the game, but they give you a few different ways to play, like going as long as you can on one credit, or slowing the stages down into sections to get better at the game. Ikaruga and Radiant Silvergun are two of my favorite shoot-'em-ups. This is a game I used to play a lot when I was younger. It's still a one-of-a-kind shooter that I highly recommend. Wario was first released in PAL territories on June 20th, 2003, next released in North America on June 23rd, 2003, then in Australia on July 10th, 2003, and in Japan on May 27th, 2004. Real quick, I want to say sorry about the aspect ratio changing so often. It's just for this game. Following the successful development of Sin and Punishment, Nintendo and Treasure teamed up for Wario World on the GameCube. Wario had already had some handheld games that he starred in. This is the Evil Mario's first console outing. Wario World begins with Wario finding a gem that has an evil spirit inside it. The gem turns all of Wario's treasure into monsters. Wario ain't having that, so he's off to get it all back. Wario World is a beat-em-up platformer. Wario starts off in a small hub world with 4 worlds. Once you beat one, the next one unlocks. Wario goes into battle against enemies with a few different attacks. For his normal attacks, he's got a melee combo, a charge attack, and a butt stomp. After picking up larger monsters, Wario can spin them and run through enemies. He can also pick them up and pile drive them, doing a ground pound that hits all nearby enemies. Then he has a throw and a super throw. Combat is definitely fun in Wario World. Each stage has trapdoors around. Inside are platforming puzzles. These are required. At the end are gems. Each stage boss requires a certain amount of challenge. These are fun. There are some very cool challenges in the trapdoors. When Wario falls off a stage, he ends up being chased by ghosts that are after his money. There are boxes around, and only one of them has the exit. Boss battles are a lot of fun too. Each stage has a boss, then there's a main boss for each world. Wario World is really a lot of fun. Treasure and Nintendo really delivered something very cool here. This has been the best part about playing all these Treasure games. There are quite a few I've never played before. Well, I'm really glad I gave Wario World a try. I recommend it if you've never played it before. Dragon Drive D Master Shot was released in Japan on August 8, 2003. This game was only released in Japan. I'd never heard of the Dragon Drive anime that this game is based on, so I watched it. Dragon Drive is a manga written by Kenichi Sakura. It follows Reiji Ozora, an incredibly lazy guy that gives up on everything he starts. His friend Yukino tells him about a new VR game that's unlike anything else. The anime is similar to Sword Arts Online but backwards. They play the game for like the first 6 episodes, then it's the game of death. That was the thing that killed me about Sword Arts Online. They were stuck in an MMO. If they died in the game, they died in real life. Once they got out, they were just playing games together. I really lost interest. My son still swears by it though. Anyway, back to Dragon Drive. The game is a third-person shooter. Reggie flies around on Chibi's legs or on his back when he reveals his true form.
Chibi, 俺に力を貸してくれ!
Chibi has a fire attack, and I'm not sure what the other one is supposed to be, but it's kind of like a thinner machine gun. Chibi also has a guard and gets some buffs and healing from cards he finds on the battlefield. Chibi can also hover in the air and move sideways as well as up and down. Most of the time he'll be flying around arenas, but there are on-rail stages similar to Panzer Dragoon. Chibi has other ways to fire. There are 2 cards that I didn't unlock, but yeah, there are more attacks for Chibi. Unfortunately, I couldn't beat the 3rd boss. I was interested in seeing the other world, but mainly because I like the anime. For the most part, the game felt okay. If this is the type of game you're into, I say give it a shot. It just wasn't for me. I do like the music in this one though. Gradius V was first released in Japan on July 22, 2004, next released in North America on September 14, 2004, then in PAL territories on October 8, 2004, and in Australia on October 29, 2004. What? Treasure developing for Konami? Wow. Okay, well, due to limited resources, Gradius V had to be outsourced. Senior producer Osamu Kasai said that Treasure was the best choice. Once again, Hitoshi Sakamoto composes, and this is a damn good soundtrack. Unlike Treasure's previous shooters, Gradius V keeps its trademark power-ups. With the power-ups, you choose when to use them. Each of the 4 types for the Vic Viper has different weapons. Using a power-up right away will speed the ship up. If you save them up, they'll move to the next weapon. I played a little Gradius over the years, but this one sucked me in right away. The game has some really good stage design. The enemies you'll be facing are bio-monsters and ships. The bosses in this game tend to keep you trapped. This game is incredibly hard. My son said Gradius V makes Ikaruga look like a game for chumps. Hell, even putting this game on super easy will get you super blown up fast. The game gives you 3 credits. This counts for both players, so if you play 2 players, only one of you can continue. Gradius V might be Treasure's best looking game so far. These stages really blew me away. Now, as cool as Gradius V is, the difficulty was really off-putting. My son wouldn't play with me again. I've beaten Ikaruga a few times, so it's not like I completely suck at these games. It's just really a pain having to speed your ship up again when you die. The Vic Viper moves really slow after being blown up, but even still, after giving it some time, I went right back in. It's just a fun game, but yeah, I had to take breaks. I say give it a shot, just be ready for a challenge. Sega Ages 2500 Series Volume 25, Gunstar Heroes Treasure Box. Jeez, that was a mouthful. Was released in Japan on February 23, 2006. The Sega Ages series are re-releases and sometimes remakes of classic Sega titles. The series began on the Sega Saturn. Working Designs released one in North America. Anyway, this is a compilation featuring Gunstar Heroes, Dynamite Headdy, and Alien Soldier on the PS2. So this treasure box wasn't worked on by Treasure. M2 ported these to the PS2. It's a little more than the 3 Genesis games. With a cheat code, Gunstar Heroes on the Game Gear and the prototype can be unlocked. Same goes for Dynamite Headdy, but it's only the Game Gear version. I don't have a whole lot to say about the treasure box. The prototype of Gunstar Heroes didn't have many differences with the final product. I just noticed the lack of an intro and more slowdown than usual. So yeah, I cover all 3 of these in the first episode. The concept art for these games is cool. You can see that Blade Gunner was the original working title for Gunstar Heroes. Yeah, that's about it for this one. I just figured I should mention it. Yo! Here we are! Last episode is the treasure series I've been working on. Now, as I stated in the previous 2 episodes, Bangai-O HD Missile Fury has been delisted. Without any hands-on experience with the game, I really didn't have very much to say about it. Now, there's a lot of licensed games in this one. I don't like making these intros too long. I'll have more to say about the series at the end of the video, but real quick, I'm a very small channel. I want to grow, but milk ain't gonna cut it, so please do consider liking and subscribing. That's all I got. Last treasure games, let's go. Bleach the Blade of Fate was first released in Japan on January 26, 2006, next released in North America on October 9, 2007, then released in Australia on February 28, 2008, and in PAL territories on February 29, 2008. Alright, the first of 3 Bleach games. Bleach has recently had a boost in popularity. Luckily, I've already seen the story arc that this game takes place in. Bleach is a manga written and illustrated by Tite Kubo. It stars Ichigo Kurosaki, a high school student. He's able to see ghosts.
I see dead people.
Oh my god.
One night he sees a woman fighting a giant hollow, basically a lost soul. She's wounded in the battle and transfers her powers to Ichigo. The woman is Rukia, Shinigami, a god of death. The first part of the story has Rukia teaching Ichigo how to use his new powers and fighting off more hollows. Ichigo's acquaintances start getting unique powers to fight off the hollows as well. The arc the game follows has Rukia getting arrested for giving her death powers to Ichigo. The penalty is death. Ichigo and his friends break into Soul Society to save Rukia. So yeah, they break into the afterlife where you can die. Again! Bleach the Blade of Fate is a fighting game. It's actually very similar to the YuYu Hakusho game that Treasure made on the Sega Genesis. All the characters have the same button commands to do specials and supers. Every fighter is unique. The moves and supers act very different. There's actually a lot of strategy and character differences, but also in the deck you bring into battle. Character cards are on the lower screen. These give the player buffs or debuffs for the opponents. For instance, switching your life bar with the enemies. There are a lot of different cards. However, you can only have so many in your deck. So yeah, deck customization is a big thing in the Blade of Fate. Just like Yu Yu Hakusho on the Genesis, Bleach has a life bar and a spirit or super bar. The Blade of Fate super meter works a lot like Street Fighter 3's. Doing special moves doesn't use any of the bar, but doing it with a strong attack does. These are more powerful special attacks. Then there are super moves. These work similar to a lot of other fighting games. The game is very easy to get the hang of and you'll be performing combos before you know it. There are also 4-person battles. These take place on 2 planes just like the previously mentioned Yu Yu Hakusho game. One thing about it though is that it's easy to accidentally fire super in the wrong direction. Fights are also 1 round so they are a bit long. Bleach the Blade of Fate also has some different modes in it. Story, arcade, versus, training, challenges, deck building, and the shop. There's also a gallery with story scenes and sounds. Some of these modes give you money. You can use these to buy things like cards and character colors. Bleach the Blade of Fate isn't a half bad fighter. I'm not sure how long it'll be before you get bored with this one though. If you can play it with someone else, I'm sure you'll get some fun out of it. It's worth a try though.
Bleach, Dark Souls.
Real quick, Bleach Dark Souls is actually very similar to the Blade of Fate, so I'm not going to be talking about this one for very long. Bleach Dark Souls was first released in Japan on February 15, 2007, next released in North America on October 7, 2008, then released in PAL territories on March 6, 2009, and in Australia on March 12, 2009. This game came out 1 year after the Blade of Fate. Bleach Dark Souls adds new characters, new moves for returning combatants, new battle options, and types. The game also has an original story set between the end of the Soul Society arc and the return to Earth. I got stuck so I couldn't get very far through the story, but it involves mod souls and hollows in Soul Society. The story has branches letting you choose who to battle next. Some of these character battles have keys to unlock the next fight. Story does add some special battles, like collecting candy while fighting and protecting an original character from a group of thugs. Dark Souls also has new cards. For story purposes, some characters were removed, but as I said earlier, there are new characters. Most of them are unlocked in the story mode. The layout on the lower screen is an improvement over the Blade of Fate. I had a lot of fun with this one. I'd say if you want to play a fighter on the DS, this is one to go with. Bleach Dark Souls definitely has much more content than the Blade of Fate. Bangai-O Spirits was released in Japan on March 19, 2008, next released in North America on August 12, 2008, then in PAL territories on August 29, 2008. I really hate that I have to start this part of the video off by saying I don't get this game at all. I can't even get past the tutorial. This game doesn't seem to have a story mode. The characters that are in this are only in the tutorial. Bangai-O Spirits is a collection of stages. There are a variety in free play. You can also create your own stages. So from what I read about this game, your EX attacks are everything. From what I saw on different forums was that you have to spam your EX attack. The thing for me is that I constantly died before I could even figure out what was going on. This game is for the hardcore shooter fan, not a casual like me. I love the first Bangai-O on the Nintendo 64 and Dreamcast. I really can't stand this game. Some people swear by it though. Maybe it's something you'll like.
Oh my god!
Bleach vs Crusader!
Bleach vs. Crusader was released for the Wii in Japan on December 18, 2008. This game takes place after the Soul Society arc. Ichigo and company have to deal with the Arrancar. Also, there are other people like Ichigo. They have both the power of Shinigami and Hollows. I really had fun playing the story mode. All this time I could have been using Google Translate.
Feel the power of my magic!
The story is a little more complicated, but I don't want to spoil Bleach for anyone. I really like the soundtrack for this part of the anime. Bleach Soundtrack Volume 3 is really worth listening to. Anyway, Bleach vs. Crusader may be Treasure's best fighter. It can be played with either the Wiimote Nunchuck or the GameCube controller. Yeah, the classic controller works too. Some may even use 2 Joy-Cons and a PS5 controller. What? The controller option is much better in my opinion. Not a fan of shaking the Wiimote to attack. The game is played from a third-person perspective. There are normal attacks that can be easily linked into combos, as well as 2 specials and 2 supers. Power-ups can be performed that lead to transformations, or in the Shinigami's case they release their Bankais. The animations for the power-ups are very cool. During these the arena is transformed. Attacks are also powered up. An ultimate attack can be performed here as well. Bleach vs. Crusade's story mode has the player take control of multiple characters. Honestly, this was a great recap. I mean, yeah, I had to view all the text with a cell phone through Google Lens, but this was actually pretty cool. I haven't watched this arc since it was airing weekly in Japan, which was a very long time ago. All these Bleach games really make me want to rewatch Bleach. I never finished the anime or watched the 1000-Year War. Anyway, my point to all this is that it's very faithful to the anime. It really crams as much story into it as they could. After making your way through enough of the story, the partner system is introduced. This allows you to switch characters in battle and call for assists. In certain battles, they'll run around and fight on their own. Bleach vs. Crusader is really a great looking game. Cell shading ages the best in my opinion, just like sprite-based games. Characters look on par with the anime. It really does an amazing job capturing Bleach. Vs. Crusader is a very fun arena fighter. It does suck that this is our last fighting game, but these are the last treasure games. If you can, this is definitely one to play. Alright, that's the last of the Bleach games.
We're just starting to have so much fun!
Bangai Konjiki Ashsogi-jizu. Ike!
Sin and Punishment's Star Successor was first released in Japan on October 29, 2009. Next released in PAL territories on May 7, 2010, then in North America on June 27, 2010. Star Successor is set years after the events of Sin and Punishment. Issa is Saki and Eren's son from the first game. He's sent to eliminate a girl, but he realizes that she's harmless. Since Issa betrayed his leaders, he and the girl Kachi are on the run. There's something about the inner space and outer space, the creators have multiple Earths, I don't know. All that really matters is that the creators are trying to take Issa and Kachi out. So yeah, for me the story is just there. This is still one hell of an action-packed adventure. I guess the closest thing to compare this to is Space Harrier. First off, I'm glad motion controls aren't the only way to play this game. Star Successor feels so much better than the original. Being able to use 2 analogs makes moving and aiming much easier. The game is non-rail shooter. Both the character and aiming reticle are controlled separately. The gun the characters use has a machine gun, but also a powerful charge shot. There is no limit to the charge shots. After use, a cooldown is required before it can be used again. The charge shot is a main mechanic in Star Successor. It's fun blowing up big groups of enemies with it. It's mapped to the fire button, so it's going to start charging as soon as it's ready. There's also a melee attack that's necessary in boss battles. Star Successor has 2 players. Player 2 only controls a reticle, so they're more of a helper. Having that help is great though, because this game is hard. If you play the game on easy, it gives you a lot of health pickups. I played the game on normal and died a lot. While the set pieces were impressive for the Nintendo 64, Treasure was able to do so much more on the Wii. While I'm not really a fan of the character designs, I really do like the strange and unique enemies and bosses. At some points enemies will barrage you with attacks, filling the screen. That's why the charge attack is so important. Giant bosses and sub-bosses have really crazy attacks too. Sin and Punishment Star Successor is a very fun gem on the Wii. It's got some great looking stages and enemies. Definitely play this game if you can. The final 2 releases for Treasure are Geist Crusher and Geist Crusher God. The second includes the first, but adds more story and makes some refinements to the gameplay. Since they're basically the same though, I'm just going to be talking about Geist Crusher God. Geist Crusher was released in Japan on December 5th, 2013. Geist Crusher God was released on September 4th, 2014, also in Japan. Geist Crusher is a cross-media franchise. An anime, a manga, and a game were all launched together. This was an attempt to have the next big hit in anime. The franchise was marketed towards elementary school-aged kids. I watched a couple episodes just to know what the series is about. A kid who gets a Geist Crusher suit has power they've never seen before. Sound familiar? I don't know, I've never heard a story like that before in my life. The new metal was discovered deep in the earth. Gunmetal unleashes giant beasts. It's up to the Geist Crushers to take them out. It's not the worst thing ever, I just really didn't care about it. But hey, I didn't care for Ronald McDonald, and Treasure knocked that McDonald's game out of the park. So how's this game? Geist Crusher is an action beat 'em up. There are multiple playable characters. Rekka is the main character, so there are times you're forced to play with him. As you defeat Geist, you unlock new armor. Armor levels up instead of characters. If you leave Rekka with low level armor, that's what he'll be wearing when the story calls for him. There are 6 different attacks for each armor. There are 2 types, mail mode and attack mode. In mail mode, defense is higher. There's also a timed guard that can be used in this form. In attack mode, power is raised while defense drops. Pieces of the armor form the weapon. A dash replaces the guard in attack mode. Enemies show up in small areas and almost be defeated before moving on. At the end of every stage is a giant Geist to battle. Defeating them provides new armors to wear. There are also super attacks that are activated on the lower touchscreen. These are good for big groups and to stun large Geists. There's also an EX attack that allows the character to transform. Depending on the armor, the super and EX attacks change. The EX changes which Geist you'll be able to play as. These take a while to build up, so I definitely put some time into this one. It's not bad per se, however it's not great either. It's just okay. The game's story scenes go on for very long periods of time. Luckily they can be skipped. Geist Crusher gets repetitive fast. Stages are also pretty short, only lasting a few minutes. So here's the thing, I've been showing footage from both Geist Crusher and Geist Crusher God. I couldn't tell the difference when playing them. So without noticing the differences, I couldn't really separate this into 2 different parts of the video. Geist Crusher God refines the gameplay of the original as well as adding new content. I wish I could say that Treasure's final release was an amazing hidden gem, never released here. I can't though. That's it, Treasure's last game. I do have to mention the game that was delisted though. Bangai-O HD Missile Fury was released on May 4th, 2011 on Xbox Live Arcade. From the looks of it, it probably would have frustrated me as much as Bangai-O Spirits did. However, this game got really good reviews, it's just a shame it got delisted. I gotta thank Splazer Productions for uploading this piece of video game history. It's just sad how many games have already disappeared like this one did, and how many games in the future will too. Alright, that's all the Treasure games. Now I've played all but one in an unreleased Tiny Toons game. When I was making the first episode, I wasn't planning on this being a series. It's just, as I was getting towards the end of the project, I really wanted to play Mischief Makers and Guardian Heroes. And then I started thinking about Astro Boy the Omega Factor and Ikaruga. So yeah, me wanting to play a lot of my favorite games again became a series. While working on this project, I've gotten to play a lot of games I've never played before, some I've never even heard of. So Treasure's actually still around. They've just been inactive since 2014. There was some news about a new game, but I haven't heard anything about that in a while. So as far as I know, this is it. Well, what's your favorite Treasure game? Or maybe you just want to tell me how much I suck at Bangai-O Spirits. Leave it in the comments below. Please like if you liked it, please subscribe. Peace.